News Talks ZB, Canterbury Mornings with Chris Lynch. We're back with the Power Panel for the final moments. We had an extraordinary talkback a couple of hours earlier this week. We were talking about an international market. This is probably the first thing I think many Cantabs that called into the program actually agreed on and got engaged and thought it was a great idea. I was humbled by the response and I thought, yep, people are actually excited about something happening in the CBD. We had a caller up, Taz, I think his name was, from the business community, excited about this as well. Alex, do you reckon this would work? Could this work? It's been tried before, but my understanding was it didn't go too well. Do we need an international kind of market set up here in Christchurch?
I think it's a great idea as long as people will engage. So engage financially to get it going, and then be supportive of it. And as long as Christchurch people or visitors in Christchurch can get to it. So the thing that we don't take for granted in Christchurch that you might in other cities is that when you get in your car and want to drive somewhere, that you can get to that place. So we actually have to make it pretty easy. I would support it. I'd take my family along. So I think if others are going to get involved too, yeah, great. If it's fun and it's new and it's innovative and people are engaged to do it, absolutely.
It's all about creating an experience. And what I love about the Rickon and Dean's Bush market is you go there not really to buy things, but just the experience is great. And you'll buy a coffee, you could get it at a cafe, but you buy it there because it's just an experience. Can we create something like that on Armour Street as proposed, Yani Johanson?
Well, I think you have to look at New Regent Street and say it's really struggled. And the reason it's struggled is because the access has been terrible. And if you look at the central city at the moment, incredibly hard for businesses to make it work. But I think if you look at things like the Pallet Pavilion, we can do creative, innovative things that attract people to the central city. We should be doing that as a transitional phase and possibly looking at what works and then turning it into the permanent. I have to say, I love the idea of an indoor market as well, because I actually think, and possibly it could be one and the same, but you have to think about what happens to sustain those businesses over winter. In summer, great, nice weather, people like to be outdoors. The weather in Christchurch means I think over winter you need to have some thought to dealing with the elements, but I think it's a great concept. You need to understand that in terms of our population, and I go to citizenship ceremonies every few weeks at council, we have a changing demographic in our population. We do have huge new communities coming in, both for the rebuild and even before the rebuild. So I think it's wonderful to celebrate and share in that diversity. And actually, I think Christchurch and Canterbury people actually love that sort of diversity. They, enjoy those experiences. So I think it will work. But I think we need to be really clear about just dealing with some of those other issues around it. So, getting the streets open in the central city, making sure there's access to car parking, making sure that we deal with the elements.
Garry Moore, everybody had an opinion on the potential for an international market down Armour Street. Everybody was positive about it. Everybody I spoke to gave me the impression they would make the effort to go to this market. Why do you think that was the case? Because a lot of people can be so divided about anchor projects and building and infrastructure, but here was something that I felt the News Talk ZB family all agreed on.
I agree, and I actually think, like the other two, it's a great opportunity. For me, my favourite city outside Christchurch is Melbourne. And you can actually see some little streets like New Regent Street in Melbourne where they put a cover up during the day and the middle of the street becomes a covered area. And Pam and I have been there many times where it's pouring with rain and you're being served by one of the businesses from the side, and so you've got a combination of flexible and open. Now, I've seen the same thing in China where you've got this absolutely unbelievable market at night, and then you go back the next morning and it's an ordinary street. And I think that what we need to do from a capital perspective is you do something like that first to prove the worth of something like that, and then you go to the things like the Queen Vic market in Melbourne, which when you look at it, it's over 100 years old and nearly closed down until some people saved it. So it's And I agree with Yani that the cultural mix of Christchurch now is phenomenal. You go to Hagley College where they've got 50-something different nationalities at the school. So I just think, I'd go down the least cost, cover the road, give New Regent Street a shot in the arm and embarrass some of the poorer owners within. Some of the owners in New Regent Street have done a superb job. Some are sitting with their hands in their pockets, and they should be embarrassed out into doing some sensible investment on their part to make their investment and the street thrive.
Let's just quickly touch on international investment. Sadly, there is none happening in central Christchurch, but there is plenty happening on the Kashmir Hills. Case in point, the Canadian organisation that got given a fund from the government of $2 million, but it's spending $20 million of its own money to create an international downhill mountain bike park. A lot of people thought this was great, but several people thought fix our roads first. Is that a fair comment or not, though, Alex?
So is this a partnership? So is the city putting money into it as well?
No, this is just government money.
Get over it.
Yeah.
Not our government money or Canada's government money.
Just a bit of government money from a tourism fund. It's completely separate from Christchurch.
Put it in there. Absolutely. Do you know why people are so connected to this market as well? Because we're desperate to have fun.
Yes.
Desperate. We need joy. We need these things. We need to get out and be active. And if it's a downhill cycle way or whatever else, get amongst it. I totally support it. Absolutely.
We're nearly out of time. Only got just under a minute left. Let's end with some other positive stuff. The thumbs up for this week, Garry Moore.
Joe Byrne, the leader of the community in Flockton Basin, amazing woman. My thumbs up for Joe.
She's a great lady. Yani.
Great.
Yeah, I'd just say that Adventure Park, that's a great asset for our city. The council has been working for a number of years around trying to make it happen, and we still, Councillor Paul Lonsdale, are looking at what we can do. But the outdoor active recreation is the future for our city, and the more supportive we can be of that, things that are fun and free and can really give people a sense of enjoyment, I think is really positive.
And
so well
Alex?
done to them.
It was last week actually, which was Hospice Awareness Week. So really to all of those people that are engaged with hospice, helping out in the community, and for everyone else who's supporting them through the shops, and donations and funding and being volunteers.
Nicely said. There's a lovely shop too in the Palms that a lot of people go to, which is always good to support too. Alex Dalziel, Yani Johanson, Garry Moore, nice to see you all. Have a fabulous weekend.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank
It
you.
is News Talk ZB.